Coming to you from our opulent and luxurious 4x8 refurbished room closet at the national headquarters in Indianapolis. With duct tape studio lights and a mic that you barely can hear, we hope to entertain and educate you. This is the Tango Alpha Lima podcast.
They call me crazy cause I'm facing all my giants. They try to scare me into thinking I can fight it. They tell me I should never even think of trying. But that's just me, I'm gonna live out in defiance.
Hello, and welcome back to Tango Alpha Lima podcast, perhaps the most uncomfortable viewing of your week. Ashley, that was a heck of an entrance. I don't know if you undershot the mark, if you overshot the mark.
I overshot it. I was trying to keep moving and I got stuck.
For those of you not watching on YouTube, you 100% should be taking this in its full visual glory, because let me tell you, Ashley's maneuver there was spectacular. We are, however, good news, folks. We are up 400% for the month of July over where we started in April. So I guess 4 times 4 is 16. So we have 16 viewers now or something of that nature. So just shout out to all of you who have downloaded and rate our podcast. Make sure you do that everywhere that you get a podcast. And the more eyeballs on here, the more people we can let know about the good things the American Legion's doing. So get on there, give us high marks, give us low marks, just give us marks either way, and let us know what we can do better. I'm joined, as always, by my 2 co-hosts, Ashley Corbolja Maldonado with her spectacular entrance there. Love it. And Jeff Daly from Hollywood, California. Ashley is a former MP in the Ohio National Guard. Jeff is a former Marine who once finished an entire Dr. Seuss book in a week with only a little help from other people on the big words. So congrats to Jeff on that. And we've got a story that is tailor-made for you, my friend. I know you know what's coming, but man, it's a good week for that. But I was gonna start by talking to Jeff about some sports, but Ashley, tell us why you're into 1980s worldwide wrestling entertainment, because that was a very nice story. It's just unexpected when you look at Jeff and I and you say one of them watches 1980s WWE. I don't think anyone would have picked you. So I think Jeff and I were both shocked by that, but tell us why.
Okay, so I have enjoyed wrestling for a very long time, and partly because of my grandfather, and I have an uncle who's 5 years older than me, so when my mom was graduating high school, my uncle was born. So I was like, surprise! My grandma was like, not done yet. So my grandfather would take my uncle and I, and we would like go to all these different events and stuff, but I remember sitting in my grandparents' living room, like watching the television and watching wrestling with them, and that's just one of my favorite pastimes that I spent time with my grandfather. And my uncle would try and like stone cold stun me like off the couch and like throw, like I'm pretty sure I've been concussed at some point in my childhood, which is fantastic. So like I'm used to like Ric Flair and like the early on Dwayne The Rock Johnson, the Undertaker, you name it. Like the Warrior was like a favorite of my uncle's. I remember like he used to have like the theme song playing all the time. But yeah, some really, really cool personalities. And obviously, like, you grow up and you know a lot of that's just, fake and stuff. But my brothers...
Wait, what?
What? Right? So my brothers were really into it. And they had all the action figures. They had, like, the wrestling ring. I mean, my parents are spending, like, $25 on, like, these, like, little action figure kind of guys, right? And we used to have a whole collection of it. They're probably still in my mom's basement somewhere in, like, a tub of pastimes. But, yeah, so... Fun story, listeners. That's part of my past, and I enjoy it.
I was just surprised by it when we were like, my kids also watch The Rock, but it's usually in Moana, like not his wrestling days. So,
well, I've got to say that
you're welcome. You're welcome,
Ashley. With your revelation, I've come to understand a lot more about you. The effects of the concussions make a lot of things really clear in my mind. Early
TBI, everybody.
Yeah, so.
No concussions, she might have gone to Michigan. We'll never know.
Yeah.
I mean, let's not get crazy.
Yeah.
She's still from Ohio.
Do they let people into Michigan from Ohio? I think they do, right?
They do.
Yeah, some of our best football players have come. Some of our best football players have come from Ohio, unfortunately.
One of my best friends in the Army. It was their way out. One of my best friends in the Army was a diehard Ohio State guy. Diehard from Barberton, Ohio. Grew up on the mean streets of Barberton. Loved everything about Ohio. And then his son got recruited to play at Michigan, and he had to go out and buy all the Michigan gear. And I know it hurt him, but he became a big Michigan fan. So shout out to Robert Douglas and his son, who played at University of Michigan before transferring, I believe, to Rutgers, where he played football for a while. But Jeff, sports, man, are we back? Are we sort of back?
No, because I mean, watching sports with no fans. I think I told you guys this off air. Is like playing sports with no fans when I played high school varsity soccer. Like there's no emotion left in the game. I don't like it. And I do want to say before we leave the Ohio-Michigan thing, it's a touching story, actually. I was out here and I met this girl. She was a lovely girl. I had no clue she had all her teeth. And what she had lived in the South Bay, which in LA, if you live more than 5 or 7 miles, it's a thing that you have to kind of talk about. So she said that, and then she also said that she graduated from, and she said it exactly this, the Ohio State University.
Yeah,
and I go, and then, so I was like, I can handle one of these things, but both is just way too much. I'm sure you're great, but I gotta go. And this is reason 78. Why is Jeff single? Because that story right there.
Well, there you go.
Because she put a before Ohio. Did you guys ever watch Last Man Standing? You ever watch that Tim Allen TV show?
Tim Allen? Yeah.
Yeah, because he's from Michigan and his wife's from the Ohio State University, and they have a long-running joke about it. But I don't know. One of my favorite shows on TV. I don't really watch all that many shows that don't deal with history, but...
Well, Tim Allen is an awesome Michigan. He went to Western Michigan University, which is in Kalamazoo, Michigan, the home of Jeff Daly of the Michigan Dailies. And that's where I was always surprised that he got on Disney, because he got arrested in Kalamazoo, Michigan for selling cocaine in college.
Yeah, and not a small amount.
No.
Like, he went to prison for like 5 years. Like, he went to legit prison. Like, but I did see there was... some guys decided to get his name trending from Barstool Sports last week, and everyone just assumed that Tim Allen had died because his name was trending, and everyone was feverishly looking. And Tim Allen was pretty funny. He said he had woke up, saw his name trending, and wondered if he had died, and then he was looking at it. But he, in his thing to say, yeah, I'm still alive, he did say he still lives in Michigan, which I thought was great. I mean, I assumed he was a Hollywood guy like Jeff here, that everybody moves out of Michigan.
Your money will go way
later.
further in the Midwest.
Yeah, I would 100% rather live in Michigan than Hollywood, but I just don't like traffic. So, all right.
It's overrated.
Oh,
shots fired.
I've been to Los Angeles twice. I went to the Palisades Post and had a wonderful time. But as I told you before, like, everyone there is like beautiful and dressed really nice. And I look like a guy who wandered out of a cave with his pet bear and just came upon society. So I felt super awkward.
You ever seen this old skit of Bongo the bear?
No.
Please look that up in your free time.
Have you ever watched? I do like watching the videos of the Russian bears that wrestle with people. That's always fun to watch. A bear just beat
those
people
kind of
around.
bears. It's like
so you need to come. You need to come back to Los Angeles and come to the Post.
That's another thing. I was in Los Angeles last year because I saw Ashley in Los Angeles, but you were not there.
You were where, though? Where were you?
We were at the Student Veterans of America convention.
Oh, I wasn't a Student Veteran of America, so I didn't...
Well, you could have come over.
Yeah, I mean, LA Live's got a...
And that's where I met Ashley, was that same time.
Well...
No.
Yeah.
Was it?
No, you and I met when I was running for Miss Veteran America, and
but we also saw.
I was down there
that was before
that.
But then I saw you again when you were in town for SVA.
Yes,
correct.
I believe.
Yeah. Well, thanks for introducing yourself down there, Jeff. Appreciate that. Oh, wait, you didn't. That's right. All right, we're going to start with a wild story here out of the Navy. And this one, I had to read it a couple times to figure out what was going on. But this is from the Navy Times. And I'm loath to even give this poor lady's name, and you'll see why. But I guess it's out there, so we might as well discuss it. But her name is Elise Acevedo. She thought she was doing a good deed last year when she helped a fellow sailor who was badly intoxicated during a San Diego shore leave. Now, I can't imagine that happens very often, but so she helps this guy out. 7 months after leaving the Navy, Acevedo is still the target of online harassment thanks to an erroneous Navy news story about the incident. In a story about the Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal she received in November for helping out the sailor, the Navy wrote that Acevedo received the medal for, quote, turning over a sailor who was underage drinking, end quote. The story quoted her as saying, I felt great knowing that I helped my command and hopefully the sailor by turning them over to the authorities. I love the fact that I received an award to help me get promotion for it. So the story made it sound like she helped this like drunk Navy guy. Well, the reality is she didn't know he was underage. She not only wasn't looking for a promotion, but she was getting out of the Navy. And to this day, she is still receiving text messages that are, I can't even read them on the show. You'll have to go and see it at the Navy Times, but everyone is harping on her for being a narc and being a Karen and turning this poor underage sailor into his command when all she did was help this guy who was apparently stone cold drunk and couldn't even walk, and she basically carried him back to the ship. And now she's the target of online harassment. Jeff, did you get a chance to read this article?
Yikes.
I did not read the article, and I'm shocked, to be honest, that there's a sailor that was drunk in San Diego.
It's got to be the first time it's ever happened, right?
Yeah, because basically San Diego is where it's the Navy's charm school, so they go there and they learn how to behave properly.
It's like Hogwarts for the Navy.
I love it. It's great. Continue.
There's the Jeff look.
I mean,
it's just, but I mean, can you imagine like? She did the right thing, right? I mean, who among us hasn't found a drunk soldier or Marine or something, and you're like, all right, I got to get this dude back to where he belongs without ending up dead. And the next thing you know, the Navy puts out an article that says she turned in an underage sailor and it's like the actual story.
Love to talk to that PAO officer.
Well, it turns out the person wrote a story based on it, but didn't have any quotes from her. And so he put in fake quotes pending talking to her about it, but he never got in touch with her. And then she woke up the next day and was getting hundreds of text messages. Well, it turned out somehow the story got published with her fake quotes, and that was the first time she learned that the sailor was underage. And she was like, what is happening here? And now she's been out for a long time, and
so
she's
rule
still
of thumb is she got set up for failure on that one.
I mean, 100%, right? She called the reporter apparently and was like, what's the deal on this? And he's like, what do you mean? That hasn't been published. And she's like, well, if it hasn't been published, how am I getting hundreds of text messages and Facebook messages and everything else? Did Jeff freeze like that, by the way? Or did he fall off, or is that just his normal face?
That's his normal face.
Okay.
But if he was frozen, it'd still be hilarious. Producer Holly, please screenshot the following.
Ashley, what do you think about this one?
You know what? Like, kudos for her for trying to help somebody. I just think that someone up top who was like writing this didn't do their due diligence and set her up for failure. Because I know in the service, like, you know, you take care of your battles. And, you know, with that being said, like, you try and sober them up, you get them taken care of, you get them where they need to be. You know, but if it escalated that badly where she had to like actually like, you know, give them to like authorities, probably wasn't. I don't know. I don't know if he was compliant. We don't know, right? But I think kind of broadcasting that story, because
it's crazy.
I've been in the service. Like, I've definitely had to help a few people who are not in their right state and get back where they needed to be.
But I mean, every time you did it, I assume, and every time I did it, you take them to their squad leader or whoever else, and you're like,
you take
hey, man, come get your mans. He's not doing well.
Come get him. He's doing, No,
right?
for sure.
Well, how is like? And I assume that's
like,
what.
If you ever got in a pickle, like, you know, like, call me.
Right.
I would much rather come pick you up than you have like a DUI or you
Right.
get in trouble or you spout off to somebody. You know what I mean? Like, it was always an open door with that, right? Because stuff happens. I feel bad. And then this picture too, they got this young lady like holding this award and all this stuff, and it's like,
Well,
I don't know.
Why were they mad?
It almost
Because
seems like too much for me. I'm just like,
why were they
like,
mad
I've
at her? Because
definitely-
he was underage. Like, she didn't serve him the drinks.
Well,
Yeah.
the story made it sound like she found an underage sailor and turned him into authorities for being an underage sailor. When in reality, what she was trying to do was get this poor guy home.
She turned him in like you would turn in a library book. You'd have to return it back to where it belongs.
Right. I mean, her other option was to just leave him on a street corner with a styrofoam cup, which doesn't seem like a great plan to me. Like,
No.
I think she did what you're supposed to do. The story, it was. When I read it, I was like, "What is happening in this story?" It's a Navy Times article, and you must go read it. You must go get the full flavor of what this poor lady has gone through, and she really has a good demeanor, and she doesn't seem to hold any animus towards the Navy, but they are finally correcting the story. So yes, stop. If you are one of the people that has been texting this poor woman, please stop. It's not needed. All right, we are going to take a quick commercial break to pay the bills, and we will be right back with you in a minute.
So you were discharged with a 20% disability rating, but now you can't hear so well and need help. Contact an American Legion service officer. Service officers are free of charge and they help all veterans. Find one near you with our online tool at legion.org/service officers.
And yes, Jeff had frozen, by the way.
Nice.
It's great.
And the look on
Was I
Jeff's
doing
face
this,
was
though?
spectacular.
It was fantastic. Producer Holly, I hope you got that screenshot. Because
Oh, she did.
actually, for a moment, I really thought he was holding it.
But, dude, if it was the statue challenge or whatever the hell that thing was, he was holding it really good.
It was real good. I was impressed. He's up in his game.
All right,
Oh, at
we
least
are
I was
back.
looking smart.
hopefully,
I was looking smart.
If
sorry.
Jeff is live now and not frozen, we were kind of concerned. We didn't know if Jeff was frozen or if he was doing that statue challenge thing. And if he was doing that, dude, you were a master of the statue challenge because you were not
Really good.
moving.
I think there might be a screenshot in this message board that we're gonna have to review later. But it was real good.
Oh yeah,
We're
it
like,
was.
we're gonna keep going.
All right, Ashley.
I can't steal that
we're gonna
valor.
go to
It was technology.
Ashley. We're gonna go to you for the second story. What do you got?
All right, so another Navy Times story. Congress awards its highest honor to World War II crew of the USS Indianapolis. So Congress basically is awarding Congressional Gold Medals. It's the highest honor to surviving crew members of the USS Indianapolis, the ship that delivered key components of the first nuclear bomb and was later sunk in Japan during World War II. Now, to give you kind of an idea of the timeline here and how many people were on board of this ship. So the ship had about 1,100 personnel aboard, delivered enriched uranium and other parts of the atomic bomb called the Little Boy that would be later dropped on Hiroshima and Japan in August, I think it was 1945. So what's interesting about this is 4 days after delivering that top cargo, the ship was sunk by Japanese torpedoes on July 30th, 1945. So timing, like we've talked about, time and place is just so important. Like, could you imagine if like that had been in the reverse? Like, I can't even, right? So
Right.
essentially there was about nearly 900 men who went into the Philippine Sea, and just only 316 survived before being rescued nearly 5 days later. The death toll was about 879 people, the largest single disaster at sea in the U.S. Navy history. So the survivors, which if you're not familiar with, and I know there's a good reference that was made earlier, but so the survivors were stranded in open ocean with few lifeboats and almost no food and water, enduring severe burns, dehydration, and even shark attacks. So the gold medal was awarded to the ship's entire crew, living or dead, and they will be displayed at the Indiana War Memorial Museum in Indianapolis. So I thought this was a really neat story that, you know, we are continuing to honor, you know, legacy of the Indianapolis, that, you know, it's impressive. It's impressive. I think it's a cool thing that they're doing. I just think from like a history standpoint, it's got so much symbolism behind it. And if you just look at the timeline of everything, it's just like, wow.
Yeah, Ashley referencing the the movie thing. For those who kind of know what we're talking about, it's from the movie Jaws, and Quinn, the boat captain, talks about how he was on the USS Indianapolis, and all the sharks, were frenzied. There was just sharks all over the place. So they were in the water or in the boats for 5 days with guys just slowly disappearing around them as they're getting beaten by sharks and their burns and dehydrated. It's just a terrible story. Jeff, what do you got?
Are we going into resolution or just talking?
Yeah. Talk about that.
So the cool thing is, and as Mr. Seavey likes to say, the American Legion is a ground-up organization, and someone in the great state of Texas submitted a resolution about this that I'm going to read for you today. And this is further proof.
Yeah, you could just do the resolved clause. Yeah.
The resolved. Okay, resolved by the American Legion in National Convention assembled in Minneapolis, Minnesota, August 28, 29, 30, 2018. That the American Legion support the Congressional Gold Medal for the crew of the USS Indianapolis for their brave service in World War II. So that's like kind of, people always ask, what do we do? And it's such a huge question, right? I mean, is it baseball? Is it, we have so many things. And one of the things we do is we write resolutions and we send those up the chain so that we can make the right things happen or influence the right things to happen. And that's what happened here. And I think that it's a huge tribute to those who perished and those who survived, because what a horrific experience. Being on a ship, I can tell you, in the middle of nowhere, sometimes you just have that feeling of, wow, if something happened, this is it. Like, we're nowhere. Like, nobody can get to us in any kind of real time. And to have that happen to them had to have been it seems stupid to try to assign words to how that experience may have been. And I'm proud to be in an organization that recognized that and made sure that they were recognized, which of course then makes sure that story is out there. And I imagine there's a lot of people who watched Jaws that didn't know that connection, and it's a very powerful connection. And again, like, I'm proud of the American Legion for doing that.
Yeah, this bill had been introduced in previous Congresses and really hadn't got any traction. And the American Legion got involved, and now it's a thing. So, I don't want to pat us too bad on the back. I mean, we got the Congress to do what it should have done on their own. But at least it's nice that we're finally honoring these men on this ship. And again, because it was delivering all these parts and everything, it was kind of, they weren't broadcasting their position every day and doing all these things. They were engaged in a top secret operation, which is part of why it took 5 days for most of them to get rescued. But man, it's just great that they're finally getting the Congressional Gold Medal. All right, let us move on to Jeff. You have a story for us.
I do, and it's another trouble in the water kind of story. This one closer to home. I don't know if people were on Twitter on July 31st at 2:16 a.m., but this tweet went out from the first MEF. One Marine has died, 8 service members remain missing, and 2 were injured after an AAV mishap July 30th off the coast of Southern California. All are assigned to the 15th MEU. Search and rescue efforts are still underway with support from the Navy and Coast Guard. And of course, we now know that search was called off, and the vehicle was found with human remains inside of it. And this story is tragic, obviously, with loss of life and training, especially being so close to home. It's also a little frustrating for me. I've been in those vehicles before. I've had to go on liberty from a ship in one of those vehicles, and there is always water in those things. Every last one of them was put into service during the Vietnam era, and they're just refurbished and kept in the service. So this was not a brand new vehicle that went under. These are all from the Vietnam era. So it's frustrating that we can spend the insane amounts of money that we spend on other things, but the things that carry people, human beings, our most valuable asset, as any leader in the military will tell you, and we put them in harm's way before they can even get into harm's way. And it's super frustrating to me that Marines, and in this case a sailor as well, are put in that situation where the bilge pump is the most important piece of equipment on there, because there's always water that always has to be pumped out. I'm not going to go too big on a rant here, but obviously, as Mark, you noticed earlier, it got me kind of revved up. Like, where's this, Jeff? So
it's a horrific story. I have not been in the back of an AAV. I've been in Army 113s and things of that nature. And I didn't like being in a 113 in the first place. That's why I went light infantry instead of mech infantry. But I mean, even mech infantry, you're at least on land. You can drop the back door and walk out. These guys are in the water. There's nowhere to go. You're trapped inside the skin. That's the most horrific thing I can ever imagine. It's just so sad. Just so terrible. But Ashley, what do you got?
So I never I've only seen, obviously pictures of AAVs, and ironically, while I was doing MP stuff, I did a lot of work with ASV. ASV, yeah, Armed Service. Anyway, but I remember having to test off on this for heat signatures, and the way I always remembered it is it looked kind of like a big turtle, and it had just this big hatch in the back, and I would be terrified to be in the water in one of those things. I can't even imagine being in ASV, and just even when we went through water and just off road and terrain and stuff, if those just hit proper mechanics, proper physics, next thing you know, you're rolled over. And in something like that, where now you have water as a component and you're on a track and you get stuck, and you can't pump the water out fast enough, that's horrifying.
It's terrible. So on that up note, we will take our second break, and we will be back for our rapid fire, which we will have some lighter fare for that, but come back to us. We'll be here in about a minute.
Did you know that you could cut a 5-pointed star in one snip? Betsy Ross did. Learn her secret and many other things you might not know about Old Glory in the American Legion's bookazine, Indivisible, the Story of Our Flag. Available at legion.org/emblem sales.
All right, and we are back, and we are here for the rapid fire. We've got 3 stories today. The first one is I don't even know where to go with this one, but the Navy SEAL Museum decided to do a canine exhibition where they set the dogs on a person wearing a Colin Kaepernick jersey, which not a genius marketing move. And the U.S. Navy has, of course, had to come out and say, look, we don't have anything to do with the Navy SEAL Museum. And I think the thing that got me is, for those that don't know the backstory on Colin Kaepernick taking a knee, he was just going to sit down, but he talked to former Green Beret Nate Boyer, who was a long snapper for Seattle Seahawks, and he had suggested that taking a knee would be less disrespectful. But Nate Boyer had some pretty great comments about this Colin Kaepernick dog thing in a Business Insider, and he basically said, look, I thought it was a pretty soft target thing. It was pretty weak. They're trying to raise money for a charity event, and that's what they're going to use. I don't know. It just seemed like a weak move, and I got to agree with him. It seems a little too on the nose. But what do you think about this one? Too much being made of it, or just wildly
I don't know.
inappropriate.
It seems a little poor in taste. I don't know.
Right.
Like it just, you can see, like even in the picture in this article I'm looking at, like you got people in the bystand with like their hands up, like they're taking photos and stuff. Like I don't know. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that, and I would never say like, yeah, let's do that. That'll be really funny. Like that's, I don't know. It's done in poor taste, I think.
Jeff?
The optics of it are just horrible if you consider the environment that this whole topic is around. To then have a dog.
Well, in their defense,
attack.
the video was taken before all this went down.
Well, no, because even with that's what Colin Kaepernick is saying. He's protesting is
Right,
the brutality of police. So dogs have been used for a long time before
Sure.
Colin Kaepernick was even born. But the situation that is talking about, the optics of having a dog, sicking a dog on that is not amazing at all, and it's such poor taste.
Most of us have a part of our brain or another person standing close by that's like, dude, that's a bad idea. Apparently
Where's that
the
person in this photo, like where is that person? Is it the person taking it? Like who is
like didn't someone say, hey, maybe this isn't the greatest idea to get our Navy SEAL museum, which I would like to go see the Navy SEAL museum, but this is just, I don't know, it's a little bit too on the head. Like there's nothing about this that strikes me as a good idea. Crazy. All right, Jeff, this one's all for you though, my friend. You ready for this? It's in the Marine Corps Times, entitled "Someone Finally Made Edible Crayons for Marines." And I mean, I don't want to, I think I've blown the lead, but someone finally made edible crayons for Marines. And it was this lady named Tashina Coronel, a Marine Corps veteran and the owner of Okashi Sweets, decided to start selling crayons Marines could actually eat. She also threw in edible glue for good measure.
Yes.
The crayon started as an inside joke between services, she told the Military Times. It was actually a jab at Marines from other services trying to make fun of us. But as Marines, we can laugh along with them and own it as our own. Jeff, how many crayons / edible glue are you ordering immediately after the show today?
0, and I'm offended.
You're offended. You look
100% offended. Because crayons have always been edible. So I don't know what these people are talking about. I had some for breakfast today. So I don't need.
They're not very nutritious, but they're edible. Almost everything is edible.
I don't need this candy to prove to me that crayons are edible. But I think they might actually taste better. I can't wait to see what some of those colors taste like from the candy artisan that is making those. So I probably will check out Amazon, or I probably have to go direct. But I'm gonna feed them to my people in inferior branches so that they can kind of get the feeling.
Oh, maybe we could do that for the next podcast. We could just sit here and eat
it.
crayons while you pontificate on whatever it is you want to talk about. Ashley,
Smell flavors and taste colors.
what do you, Ashley? Are you up for eating some crayons on the next show, or do you want the glue?
I'm kind of a glue gal.
Yeah.
Look at Jeff's face.
In fact, she was sniffing it earlier today on the show.
Yeah, I was about to say, don't
yeah.
say you're a glue girl. You're going to lose your job.
Oh,
Oh my god.
all right, and our
Moving
last
on.
story. Our last story was one that just kind of. This one's entitled. It's a Stripes article. Dating app hookups by quarantine troops rile enlisted leader for U.S. Forces Japan. Now, first of all, it's got to be like, it's always a sergeant major that's complaining about this stuff or whatever. This is a command chief master sergeant from the Air Force, which, it is what it is. But apparently, the senior enlisted leader for U.S. Forces Japan has singled out military personnel for using dating apps and hooking up while under quarantine. To prevent the coronavirus spread, U.S. service members and civilians arriving in Japan are placed in restriction of movement for 14 days. However, some under quarantine aren't following the rules. U.S. Forces Japan Command Chief Master Sergeant Richard Weingartner Jr. told it. I don't know. This strikes me as there's gambling going on in this house. What? You're telling me that enlisted U.S. troops are using dating apps? Posh, I say. Anyway, his quote here was, "We're seeing some folks that are like, okay, I'm here, but I can just kind of sneak out. What I would ask is if you know if someone is doing this, ask them to stop," he said, without elaboration on the violations where they happen. "Some in quarantine are using dating apps such as Tinder and Bumble and hooking up with folks," he said, without specifying whether the other parties involved were from the military community or outside the gates. All right, so like they're in quarantine lockdown and they're using Bumble to possibly get people from outside the gates? It just seems like fishing with dynamite to start with. And then on top of that, are there no security precautions about outside civilians? Like, do they show up at the front gate and they're like, "I got a Bumble from some dude. I gotta go see it." The whole story.
I'm here to meet my friend.
What's his name?
He's CrayonEater number 5.
I can't believe you just gave out Jeff's Bumble name on the air.
You know what?
Sorry. I bet you someone has that too.
I keep thinking about
real.
my own Bumbles in life, and I think they've out-Bumbled me here. This is some dumb stuff.
So I will say that I did meet. Ready for it, Jeff?
Oh yeah.
Meet my husband on a dating app.
Wow.
Fill out your Tango Lima Banco.
Wait, where is that one? Oh yeah, I've got it checked off right there. Actually, my husband. But you didn't say it right.
I met Robert. This was like 2013 Tinder. Believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah, but you weren't on quarantine sneaking him onto a base. That doesn't even seem possible to me.
How do you know?
How do I know? But I'm like, when they ask her for ID, what does she do? Does she hold up the thing, the text from him going, "You up?" You know,
reporting for duty.
Right. I don't have a military ID, but I have an invite from Bumble. Can I get in? No, you can't. The whole story was just flabbergasting. All right, we're running out of time here because we are on a tight schedule, so I will do my shout out. And mine is just something we saw, and it's Navy Admiral James Kirk. There's an actual Navy Admiral named James Kirk. I don't know why he hasn't transferred to Space Force, but you need to make sure that happens, Admiral. We will be happy to talk about you in the near future. But Ashley, who do you got for a shout out today?
So I want to give a shout out to a staff sergeant type named Samantha Frydenlund. I probably didn't say that correctly, so I apologize. But she's out of Joint Base Andrews, and her canine dog Rocky just took top dog for the military working dog competition.
Nice.
So I wanted to just kind of give a shout out to any of the canine handlers out there, and specifically her. There's a really great article that I posted on LinkedIn. She's I think it was a 316th Security Support Squadron hosts Top Dog competition.
Nice.
But it's out there. It's through I'm trying to think. Yeah, it's the Airman. Yeah, Joint Base Andrews. So if anyone's interested in that, I thought it was really cool. So she just took that within like the past, I don't know, end of July. So it's kind of cool.
Jeff, what do you got for shout out?
Friggin' Ashley stole mine.
There's
I'm
zero
kidding.
chance she did that.
Zero chance.
But I do want to hear you pronounce her name, because the way Ashley did it, I couldn't even.
I just tried to split it up into 3 parts. It's. I know my own name's difficult. I just apologize.
You just apologize. You just beg for forgiveness. So I was going to give a shout out. I know that a lot of women in District 24 here in Los Angeles, they went out, and there was a rally for Vanessa Guillen here, and they went out, they showed up, and got that attention, not just on Vanessa, but for the plight of women in uniform. So I want to give a shout out to them. And I know that our commander, Jennifer Campbell, is one of them. My friend Marceline, I'm probably gonna get in trouble now because I didn't name everyone I know that went out there. But kudos to all y'all.
Yes. All right, guys. Well, that wraps up another exciting edition. I hope we still have our listeners from Colombia and North Korea and Iran, and I don't even remember where the other ones were. But and definitely, we haven't heard back from the people in Ireland. But if you're listening to this in Ireland and you want to have us do a show from there, please send all your emails, hundreds of them. Just make up email addresses and send them to us so that I can spam our higher ups and get us a trip to Ireland. So, all right, guys, I will see you next week. As always, thank you for being here. Thank you guys for listening. Stay home, stay safe, keep legioning. Bye.
Bye.
Go Blue.